Hey, and welcome back to the Keystone Carnivore Podcast. I am your host, Corey Bachman. And tonight, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. Amber Wentworth. You can find her at meetrx.com. She is a meetrx coach. You can also find her at lonestarketogirl on Instagram. And she's going to share a really good story tonight of different protocols that she tried, nutrition strategies that she has tried since the age of 15 and to where she is now, following the ketogenic approach and the carnivore approach. I believe it was 3 years ago that we talked about in this podcast tonight. So I really think everybody's going to enjoy everything that she has to say, and I think we can all apply this and some of the strategies that she has performed herself in our own lives. So we'll hear a great story from Amber tonight. To episode 10 of the Keystone Carnivore Podcast. And I have a really special guest tonight. My guest is Amber Wentworth. She is a MeetRx coach, health coach, and you can find her at lonestarketogirl on Instagram. And we're going to talk a lot about some really great information tonight related to carnivore, ketogenic diet, maybe a little bit about the food pyramid, and some advice for beginners. So, Amber, welcome to the Keystone Carnivore Podcast.
Thank you so much, Corey. I'm happy to be on.
Excellent. So, Amber, we've been chatting back and forth on Instagram. I love the information that you share because it's very simple. And I think I even saw that you had Dr. Ken Berry on your podcast.
Yes, I sure did. Matter of fact, it drops tomorrow. So
Okay,
I'm super
awesome.
excited about that.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that too. What I would like to get started with is kind of like, what was your background before you started keto and carnivore, and what sort of symptoms or health conditions were you looking to fix?
Well, okay, first of all, do you want the long story or do you want me to compress it as much as I can? Because it's literally a 40-year journey. So.
You can share whatever information you'd like to.
Okay, here we go. All right, I will just say that pretty much most of my issues started when I was 10 years old. I had already, by that age, kind of started to add a little bit of weight, nothing like what you see with kids today, but compared to all the other little tiny skinny kids during that period of time, we're talking the 70s, right? And you just didn't see a lot of obese kids. And I wasn't obese by any means. I just had a little bit of weight and I started developing. And so that kind of set me apart from some of the other girls. And I immediately realized I was different. And, when you feel like you're different, you already have that, in your head. And then when you get confirmation because you get these little comments, then you're like, okay, yeah, I am different. And you start feeling a little bit like a freak. So I, at a very young age, knew that I needed to do something. And I started dieting pretty dang young. And, other people didn't even know I was doing it at that age. And let's see, by the time I was 15, I was a full-blown anorexic and bulimic, and I was abusing laxatives and the diet pills. And back then, you have to understand, at that point, it was in the 80s, and they had some seriously good pills out there. Well, they were bad, but they really, they're banned now, of course. But you could get that over the counter, and I did. And so I pretty young already doing that kind of a thing. I've done every diet you can imagine. I've done, like Jenny Craig. I've done Weight Watchers. I can't even tell you how many times. I've done Slim Fast. I've done Herbalife. I've done, God, you just name it, all the goofy things, the fat burner pills, eat 9 bananas one day, 9 weenies the next, 9 eggs the next, goofy stuff like that. Just hoping and thinking, this would help me drop weight and, look better, like what people were thinking I should look like, I guess. I don't know. Because, when I look back now, I'm like, I wished I looked like that. Dang, what was I thinking, But because I wasn't the typical girl that age, and it's like, the girls teased me. It wasn't the guys. The guys liked, but the boy, the girls were the ones that teased me. And so it makes you feel weird. Well, anyway, by the time I was 15, I had all these eating disorders and et cetera. And at 15, I met who's my husband now. We've been married over 34 years now, but I met him when I was 15 and I've been with him. So he's seen this whole entire journey. Matter of fact, and I've said this many times, but he paid for a medical diet that I went on. He did, because I was so serious about it and I didn't have the money, and I got my dad to sign kind of in a sneaky way so I could have permission to do this because I was too young. And so I kind of did that, sneakily. And then my now husband paid for it. So, I mean, even at that young age, I was doing a medical diet. And so you can see what a big deal this was. When I was 17, the summer before my senior year, I weighed a whopping 98 pounds. Now, I am 5'2", so I'm not a big person, but I mean, I was tiny. I still had, these up here, but everything else was super tiny. I was in a double zero at that point, and back then the double zero was really little. It's not a, zero like today, but I was very, very tiny and very bulimic at that point. So just fast forward it, my now husband found out about it. I had somehow been able to hide it for all those years, but he found out about it and he basically forced me to, get help and stop that. So that kind of went away. I shouldn't say it went away, but I was able to stop doing that. And I was pretty decent in my 20s. It wasn't horrible. I didn't really start gaining weight until probably in my late 20s, because when I started having kids. And I found out I was gestational diabetic. And so I ended up actually weighing a lot less after having my kids than when I started, because I was on that special diet, right? So even though when I think about that diet now, I cringe because I know better now, but I guess it was better than me eating the total crap diet, that I was doing before. So it did make a difference. I did lose weight. So I was actually less after each kid. But then after having kids and staying home and, being stressed and, you don't have time to cook and all this. So you go to McDonald's. Oh, I just cringe over that one. And you do stuff like that, right? So you're, frozen lasagnas and etc. So, my weight started going up, 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 up. And gosh, by the time my daughter was 5, I was huge. And 2008 is when I hit my heaviest. I was over 240 pounds. And I say over that because that was the last time I weighed, and I had already lost at this point, because I went, like I keep yo-yoing through this whole period. But at that point, I didn't weigh when I first started trying to diet. And this is one of the Weight Watchers times. And with Weight Watchers, I'll just tell you, I've lost 80 to 100 pounds 3 times doing that.
Wow.
And yeah, keto once doing that. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I weighed after I lost quite a bit of weight. I mean, I was in a size 26, 28, and it wasn't probably until I was like in a size, I don't know, 20, 22, something like that, before I stepped on the scale. And that's when the 240 number, that's why I say that number, because I don't know. So I'm guessing I probably lost 30 pounds before I weighed. So that was a lot on my 5'2" frame, right? So, I mean, it was hideous. And I was embarrassed and humiliated, and then I started having all these health issues, just one thing after another. And I knew that I had high blood pressure pretty bad. But I was scared to go to the doctor. I don't like doctors. I'll admit it. I have white coat syndrome. I'll admit it. Call it whatever you want. But I don't like doctors telling me, what to do, number one. But I also knew, or I thought, that my doctor would say, well, yeah, duh, you're fat. And that's why you have issues. And I knew I was fat. I'm not stupid. I have a mirror. But in my mind, I played this denial game that no, that's not what it was. And really, I don't look that bad. I wore baggy clothes saying, oh, I hide it. It's all good. And, it's not until you see pictures that you're like, oh, good gosh, really? I look like that? Because your mind, you just, in this whole total denial. Anyway, I ended up having to go to I hid all of these health issues, by the way, from my husband, my kids. And I had to go into the doctor for something that was totally unrelated to any issues I was having. And that's the only reason I went, because it was no big deal, but it's something I had to do. I can't even remember. And when they did the typical blood pressure check, they were like, yeah, honey, you need to lay down and we need you to be very calm. The next thing you know, the doctor's coming in, they're wheeling in an EKG, all these different, workers are coming in and hooking me up. And they were like, you have 30 minutes to get your blood pressure down. If this medication does not work, we are admitting you to the hospital right now. You are at stroke level, like serious stroke level. And I was like, oh my God, and after that point, of course, I had to go see a cardiologist, and I was put on, I say 4 medications. One of them had a diuretic. So it was actually 3 pills, but 4 different medications, if that makes sense. And that's what it took to get my blood pressure just even kind of sort of in the normal range. It still was high. So it was in bad shape. And then after that, I mean, seriously, one thing after another, I found out I was pre-diabetic. I had acid reflux so bad that if I leaned back, acid would come up into my mouth, like just up in my mouth like a fountain. And so I couldn't even recline hardly. So I was put on Nexium. And I took that for 8 years every single day. You know how bad that is? I'm sure you've read reports on it now, how bad it is. Yeah, I did it for 8 years every day.
Wow.
And my doctor actually told me, yeah, we had to do an endoscopy this way and that way. It was a big mess trying to find out where I was losing blood. So they were doing all this exploratory stuff. And that's when they found out inside that I had, like, he said, yeah, your whole inside just looks like hamburger meat. You're going to probably have to be on Nexium the rest of your life. And I was like, oh gosh, of course, we didn't know what we know now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, we went there, we found out the source of the blood loss and the anemia, dealt with that. And, it's seriously just one thing after another. So I got really scared over the prediabetes. That's what really kicked me in the butt, because I saw too much of my family have to deal with that. And I found that just horrifying, scary. And so that's when I, really got on the bandwagon and lost that weight. And boy, I lost that weight. I think that time I lost like 100 pounds. Okay, great. That was wonderful, right? Well, the diet's freaking miserable. And as I think everybody probably knows at this point, that once you lose the weight, guess what? You don't get to go back to eating what you were eating. It doesn't work that way. Well, the food I was eating was miserable. I was hungry, hangry, hated everybody. And I had willpower, so there was not a problem. I made my goals every single time I did this, not a problem. But I could never maintain because I couldn't keep eating the crap. It was horrible, and salads and stuff. I'm not a rabbit. Not a rabbit. I don't want a salad, and I love vegetables. That's a different story. But salads and stuff like that, the typical diet stuff, oh, it was just miserable. Anyway, I was always hungry because, you're eating all the carbs, right? Because that's what you're told to do. You eat that, healthy whole grain, all that good stuff. Yeah. Well, that makes you hungry and it makes you have a hard time, maintaining this. So every time I would approach my goal weight and I would hit maintenance, that's when everything fell apart. You look forward to it. You think it's exciting because then your life starts, right? Well, no, it doesn't, because you can't just, okay, that's it. You're good. Done. You've done your work. No, that's when the real work starts. And I knew that because I knew every single time I've ever lost weight that I was going to gain it back. And I did, of course. But each time I did these huge weight losses, I didn't quite get up to the highest weight of the previous before I started, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So as I went through the 3 different times, and then with keto the last time, I didn't start out as heavy as I was previous, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I always caught myself before it got to that point. But still, this constant yo-yo dieting. And so that kind of took me up to where I discovered keto. And do you want me to keep going, or did you want to
Yeah.
insert something, or?
Yeah. So one of the next things I was going to ask, and I mean, that's a lot from the age, 15 to now. Um, One of the next things that I was going to ask you is, all those diets that you went through, with the yo-yo up and down, how did you discover keto and then carnivore?
Yeah, it was actually kind of an accident, and I tell the story all the time, and some people just go whatever, but at that point I was seriously at the end. I was just at the end of my ropes because I just couldn't keep doing this anymore. I was just so aggravated and upset with myself, and I felt like my body would not cooperate, and I was doing something wrong, and it was I was going to give up, seriously give up. And my daughter, bless her heart, she had a friend who was selling a product, exogenous ketones, and they had a sample pack, and my daughter said, I want to lose 5 pounds. Now my daughter's a tiny thing, but she's got to stay all perfect, right? So she wanted to lose 5 pounds or whatever, and it was her friend, so she was like, I'm going to do it. And I said, you know what, let me do it too. What the heck? Last time. This is it. I'm giving up after this. But I kind of, for me, I need just a little bit of a catalyst. And once I get going, get out of my way. I'm a bulldozer. I will meet my goals, and there's just no question of it. And I always have. But I need something to kind of get me going. So I thought, okay, this is my last chance to kind of get me going. Well, within just a couple of days of taking the product, I was like, I have never felt this good in my life that I remember. I feel this euphoric feeling. That's the only way I can describe it to my husband, because he noticed the difference immediately. My mood, my energy level, I was smiling. I was just so happy. And so I was like, this is the best stuff ever. Why don't I know about this? And I started digging a little bit more to find out what's with this. And, of course, I learned about ketones and ketosis, and I'm like, what is this? What is the ketogenic diet? I've never heard of it. Why haven't I heard of it? And once I started digging into the diet, I was reading books, and Jimmy Moore's book, and Keto Clarity, Cholesterol Clarity, so the Keto Bible, you name it. I everything I could get my hands on, and I of course, you find out your body can do this on its own. You don't need that product. And I was like, what? Why don't I know that? Why didn't I know that? I spent 40 years suffering. Why didn't I know that? Why is that information not out there? And so I, started doing keto, and I, progressed for 2 years on keto, and I did fabulous. I dropped my weight. I got down to 117, a size 02. And I'm pretty happy with that at that age. I'll be 54 tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh, happy birthday.
So, thank you. And so, I loved keto. I thought it was just awesome because I felt fabulous. And so I kind of started being an advocate for that, because I didn't understand why this information wasn't out there. You hear about all these other crap diets, and I'm sorry, they're crap diets.
Yes.
For me, they were. If it's good for you, hey, more power to you. But the more I study the nutrition, the more I'm like, yeah, okay. But yeah, so that took me all the way up to keto.
Okay.
And I also in there, I also started doing intermittent fasting.
Yes.
So by like 10 months into keto, I was never hungry. I just wasn't. I had this, great feeling, and I just didn't need the food like I used to. I didn't think about food 24/7. 7 like I did before. When I woke up, sometimes I'd forget to eat or whatever. Well, it morphed into me only eating once a day. So I did OMAD for, gosh, a year or more, and it was super easy, super easy. And I never needed to cheat or anything. The only time I ever went off plan, and it was very specific, is when I went on a cruise. And we usually do that once a year. Not this year, but yeah, usually we do at least one. And for that week, I will pick certain things that I'm like, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. And it usually involves booze. I don't know what that says about me, but it's true. And then I'll allow a couple of desserts. Okay. But the second I get off that ship, bam, boom, I'm right back on it. And there's no question about it. I have no difficulty. That doesn't send me down a rabbit hole. I don't feel horrible. For the most part, I stayed keto, except for what I mentioned. So it was, and I did lots of activity. We took the stairs, we walked around the promenade, and we did stuff like that. So it wasn't like I was just sitting around stuffing my face all day. I did not do that. I still only ate once a day when I was keto. So that takes me up to keto anymore.
And then, so how long were you doing keto for?
About 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. And then how did you, or maybe why did you transition into carnivore? Were you looking for just something a little bit more?
Well, that's kind of a funny story, actually. When I was on keto, I should probably mention this. This is important. Not only did I lose the weight, that's not even the most important part. I mean, it's a good thing, yes. But I also was able to get off all my blood pressure medication except for one small dose. And I no longer took Nexium. I was no longer pre-diabetic. All my blood pressure, obviously, because I stopped, not needing my medicine, so that dropped. My rosacea that I had almost gone away. I just had like a little bit on my nose and just some blushing on my cheek, just a little bit. Where before I had like this awful looking acne stuff, like right here, and these little veins coming from my nose. I look like an alcoholic, that kind of look. And so, that was so embarrassing. But that pretty much all, cleared. But I still had a little bit of rosacea left over, and I still had the one blood pressure medication. Well, I started doing a podcast with my friend called Keto Cast, and he's a carnivore, and I was a keto person, so we called it the Keto Cast because I was going to do the keto part, he was going to do the carnivore part. Okay. And he just kept, oh, you're going to do it, you want to do it. Just why don't you just try it and see if you can get off the rest of your medication and stuff. And I was like, if I'm going to advocate for this, I might as well do the whole range from low carb all the way up to carnivore. What the heck? Who cares? I'll do it. So I did it. And within a couple of days, again, it seems like a couple of days is all it takes for, my body to go, woohoo. But after a couple of days, I noticed that my digestive issues that I didn't really even understand I still had because they were so much better on keto were gone. I struggled since I was like 3 with constipation and pain, like really bad pain. Sometimes it would knock me to my knees pain, and gas and bloating. And when I went on keto, it got a lot better. But on carnivore, it was gone. Boom, gone. And I didn't even do it for that reason. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even realize that was actually something that was a big deal and actually very common with carnivores. It's probably the number one thing that carnivores talk about. So, I found that really interesting. I knew I had an issue with added fiber, like flax seeds or anything like that. Good gosh, I would hurt so bad. But I didn't realize that even vegetables, the fiber, the cellulose in the plants, and maybe even some of the anti-nutrients, I don't know. But at least the fiber gave me all kinds of issues. And when I went carnivore for just a few days, it was gone. And then I was like, whoa, this is what it feels like? Because I thought I was normal having the bloat, the gas, since it was better. I thought, because you always hear about that. So you assume it's normal. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not so normal. No. Now it is if you're eating all that plant stuff. Yeah. Because you have all that undigestible fiber, insoluble fiber. So it makes a difference. And, of course, some people are more sensitive than others. And some people may not have a problem. Yay, good for them. It killed me. it hurts me. So I have no desire to eat vegetables again. And I loved them. I loved vegetables, not salads, but vegetables. and I look at it now and I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need it. No, meat's good. Thank you.
Awesome. You hit on so many good points that a lot of people in the carnivore community hit on. And one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of the symptoms are similar. I've noticed some of the same symptoms that you mentioned with the gas, the bloating, a little bit of like the acne and rosacea. I always noticed when I switched like on and off in between keto, carnivore, and then I try like the standard American diet again. Every time going back to the standard American diet with the healthy grains, whole grains, I'd have more joint pain break out in, some sort of rash. And I think a lot of us experience that. And I think it's due to a lot of bad information that was told to us, since we were kids. This probably started, I can't name a certain date off the top of my head, but probably like in the early 1920s when they demonized cholesterol and butter. I think it was Procter and Gamble who kind of leveraged their products, the Crisco, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, Crisco. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where all this got started with, saturated fat, cholesterol, all these myths. So one of the other things I wanted to discuss with you tonight was, why do you think people, when you tell them you don't eat vegetables, and I tell this to a lot of my family and friends, why do you think people are so scared to try that themselves, and why do you think they might be scared for you?
Well, because we've had this beat into our heads that this is the way it's supposed to be, that you are supposed to have a balance. And, heaven forbid you'll leave out a macro that is not essential, not essential.
Yes.
That should kind of tell you something. Okay, I will give over that we are omnivores, okay, but we are opportunistic, right? And just because you can does not mean it's optimal. But it's been beat so much into our head, and everything you hear, eat your vegetables, blah, blah, blah. It has so many nutrients, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, they do have nutrients, but the nutrients are made for the plant. And they actually have things in plants to keep other animals, etc., from eating them.
Yeah.
And some of that really affects people. Now, some people are not as sensitive, like I've said before, and that's fine. That's great. Good for you. But there is a reason why those anti-nutrients are in that plant. And you have to wonder, what is that going to do? Because our systems are not set up to digest, plant matter like that. And that's where we get the gas. That's where the rotting in your gut comes from. It's not meat, it's plants that are rotting in your gut. I mean, they got to do something with it, and the bacteria's got to, try to do something with that fiber, but it just passes on through. But you get a lot of gas from it. Okay, yeehaw. But and the other thing that I think is really funny is, when people ask, well, how do you poop?
Yep.
Okay. Well, a lot easier. Well, thank you for asking. Like, okay, I don't go as often, and it's not painful anymore.
Yes.
Because your stool's not bulked up this big from the stupid fiber, and the abrasive fiber. Again, some people do great with it, great, but a lot of us don't, and it's something worth trying. It's not going to hurt to not have it for a little while. It's been let's see, is it 16 months this month that I've been carnivore, and I'm functioning really well, and I can still poop. I'm sorry, but I can. So this whole thing, but for some reason people just cannot wrap their minds around it. They haven't done their research. They haven't tried it themselves. That's the thing, and they don't understand, honestly, just how nutrient dense meat is, specifically red meat,
Yes.
ruminant. And that kind of blows people's mind. And I don't know why, but like one of my clients today actually said that one of her daughters was shocked to find out just how many nutrients are in meat. Because when she found out her mother was going to try this, she was like, oh, I don't think so. You need plants. And so her mom sent her a video that broke everything down and showed how nutrient dense meat was. And she was shocked. Isn't that sad? But it's true. I would have been too, I'll be honest with you, before I did my research. So I get it. I get why people have that immediate reaction. And plus, it's the whole status quo. I mean, if you don't follow along with that, government guideline you got
Yep.
there, then you're some kind of deviant and, some kind of freak. And it's a shame, because I think a lot of people could benefit from it. I'm not saying everybody needs to be on it or everybody even should be on it. But if you are not getting results from what you're doing and you have health issues, what the heck do you have to lose? I mean, seriously.
Definitely. Yeah. And I love all those points that you hit on. And I believe you were talking about, you were talking about all the nutrients in meat and a lot of the animal-based foods. And I believe you had a post, maybe this is a few months ago, that bacon actually has more potassium than bananas.
Yeah.
And I didn't know
So
that.
I did not actually do the research. That was a repost, so I can't exactly speak from where the research came from.
Yeah.
But I have heard that more than once. But just because you hear it, but yeah, and I don't doubt it one bit. I mean, if you really look at meat and compare it to vegetables, and you look at it, plus you have to take into account that just because it has a certain nutrient doesn't mean that it's bioavailable to you as a human. You're not a chimp, you're a human, and your gut's a little bit different. So you're not going to be able to extract the nutrients like, say, a cow would from grass or whatever. If you ate grass, it's not going to be the same thing. So it's quite a bit different. And meat, that's what our bodies are designed to do. That's why our stomachs are so acidic. It's not to break down plants, it's to break down the meat, right? And so it's very important that that's included. So yeah.
Awesome. One of the things that did it for me was Dr. Paul Saladino's, or maybe was it him or Kevin Stock. They had a really good analogy, or actually graph, comparing humans to wolves and sheep, and that huge difference between humans and a ruminant. But it actually showed humans are very similar to a wolf with their digestive system, all the way from the teeth till the time they have to go to the bathroom. So I don't know if you ever seen that before.
Yes, I have. I probably posted one of those too.
Yeah, and I usually recycle that post a lot to kind of tell people, hey, this is how it works.
Yeah, you have so much, disagreement, because you have, like, say, the vegans, and they bring out their own thing. Oh, well, see, well, we have this, and so you have that back and forth. But the truth is, how long have we been really eating plants like we are today, specifically the grains and those kind of things? Yes, we were hunter-gatherers. Yes, we had nuts. Yes, we might have dug some tubers. But the thing is, what we have today is not the same thing. It's not the same thing. They have been bred to be sweeter, larger, and available all season long. That is not how we evolved. And yes, we can evolve, and we're starting to be able to handle a few more things, but it takes a long time for your body to completely evolve for something. And we're not there. We're just not there,
Definitely. And one of the other things I wanted to ask was, say you have a family member or friend that has seen the success that you have made. You've gone off so many medications. You've, reduced weight by a pretty good amount. And they're looking to try it. What would be your advice for a beginner?
Oh, yeah, definitely. My approach, this is how I do it. Everybody's different. So you got to kind of figure out what kind of person they are. You have the people who like to just rip the Band-Aid off, jump in the cold water. Then you have people like me who are like, ow, 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 ripping the Band-Aid off and sticking a toe in, then a foot and into cold water. Yeah, I'm not one of them just. So for me personally, I like to kind of ease into something. And that makes your process so much easier, especially if you're already going from like low carb or keto into carnivore. Your life is going to be so much easier. But if you're starting from a standard American diet, oh my goodness gracious, that can be really rough. And some people are okay with that. They just want to just get it done with. And if that's the type of person, okay, fine. And a lot of people will say that when you first start carnivore, it's a good thing to stick with just meat, specifically red meat or ruminant meat, mostly beef, salt and water. I know that would not work for me because I like spices. Salt would not cut it for me, and I'd be turned off immediately. And the water part's fine. And I started out with a variety of meats, and I kind of whittled it down because that's what I wanted. And it's kind of a weird thing. I pretty much settled on 2 different things, and occasionally I'll have something different. But I usually have hamburger, patties, and filet. Those are the things I like. It's just what I like. Now, occasionally I'll have, like bison or elk or venison. My boys are hunters. A wild hog, salmon, stuff like that. I do eat other things, but most of the time, 80% of the time, that's probably what I eat. So it just depends on the type of person you are, and you can do carnivore different ways. And don't let anybody tell you there's only one way, but it just depends on what you need. If you're okay with doing that rough start, just jump in, do the beef, salt, and water, and, rip that Band-Aid off and cut those sugar cravings and all that and just get down to it. And that's great. If you're not, then gradually, specifically if you're coming from SAD, the standard American diet, where you're eating a lot of carbs, I personally think you should start easing off the carbs. Just, get rid of what obviously get rid of sugar. And for heaven's sakes, please get rid of seed oils. Get those out of your house. That's just toxic, poison, nasty stuff. Just get it out. Nobody needs that. I don't care who you are. And get rid of sugar. Nobody needs sugar. I know it's wonderful. Believe me, I was a sugar addict. I know. That needs to go. And then just start, get rid of, say, starchy vegetables, and then, get rid of some of the sweeter fruits, and just kind of whittle your way down to where you're eating pretty low carb. Then go into adding more meat. As you're cutting carbs, add more meat. Cut carbs, add more meat. And the next thing you know, you're, basically carnivore. And if there's some vegetables you just cannot live without, okay, keep eating those for a little while. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you're like, who cares? And you can whittle out more stuff. So I personally think the easing in approach works probably for more people. You really have to be that dedicated person who's okay. You don't want somebody turned off from the get-go, because that makes it very difficult, because they're not going to stick with it. And what is the point of doing anything if you can't stick with it? Because number one, this is supposed to be something that you continue to do, because guess what? And I have a lot of experience in this. You can't go back to eating what you were eating. So that's just a done deal. You have to really put your mind in a different place. You have to reframe things. You have to kind of get rid of that deadline, that endpoint, that finishing line, because there's not a finishing line, because you have to continually evolve your diet as your body changes. And believe me, I'm experiencing that right now. So I'm doing some, changes, because I'm hitting that, menopause stage. So yay. So I'm having to make adjustments. So you never stop, evolving your diet. So you have to understand that this is not something you just finish. It's not a diet. A diet makes you think that it's temporary. This is not temporary. So you really have to change your mindset. That is a huge, huge thing. And that's what I really try to work with my clients with. And it's not so much of telling them, oh, this is how you do carnivore. There's way more to that. Because if you don't change your mindset and look at it a different way and give yourself permission that it's okay, each step you make is good. You don't have to have it done by this date. Give yourself permission to know that this is something that's going to continue, and any step you make in the right direction is good. And, a lot of people, that's where they struggle, because why would you stay with something that you're miserable with? It's not a good way to go about it. I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely does. And one of the things about carnivore, a low carb or ketogenic approach, a lot of people, once they kind of, dip their toe in and they're starting to get into the routine, they can start to see long term. And I always tell people too, can you see yourself doing this for a long period of time, and paying attention to those hunger signals, whereas like a high carbohydrate standard American diet, you can't see the end because, it's just those signals keep telling you to stay hungry, every 2 to 3 hours. And it takes the carnivore and, keto and a low carb approach takes that stress off without having to worry about, looking, oh, where's my next meal? I got to go here, I got to go there, when I'm out and about. So that kind of helps with.
It helps a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. So Amber, probably maybe like one or two more questions here. You said it's your birthday tomorrow. Do you have like a big steak lined up, anything like that?
Yes. I have we have reservations at this really nice steakhouse in Austin. It's called Steiner Ranch, and their fillets are really good. And they have lobster tails that are like, oh my God, they're like this big. Because well, at least around here, most of the lobster tails are these little weeny things that you pay $20 for, and you get like 2 bites. This is a nice big juicy one. So I'm hoping that's still the way it is. I'll be so disappointed. So I'm gonna have steak and lobster tomorrow night.
Awesome. And then I just wanted to mention, so I do have a lot of relatives above the Dallas area. So I'm going to tell them to look that restaurant up too. Hopefully they can get down there, and they're starting to get into kind of the carnivore movement too.
Yay.
And then for the rest of this year, what are your goals related to maybe exercise and nutrition?
Oh, geez. Like I said, right now I'm going through some things, so I'm having to do some adjustments and trying to figure that out. And that is definitely something I need to get under control. With this time and with all the stress going on, and the cortisol, crazy, and then along with hormones. Oh goodness. So my weight has started kind of creeping back up a little, and I'm not okay with that. I work too hard. So, I'm trying to kick this in the butt right now. So that's a huge thing. And I'm working with a hormone doctor right now. He's on Instagram. You probably have seen him, or at least his partner, Michelle Well Balanced.
Okay.
And he's Dr. Jay Wrigley, the keto doc. I think that's his call. But you've probably seen him around. But so I'm working with him and hoping to get that under control. And yeah, bring up the whole exercise thing. Yeah. And if my doctor hears me, he's going to get on me. But one thing I was, and I didn't mention this prior, but I have been I also had an anorexia athletica. And that's where you have a disorder, exercise disorder. I would work out like 2 to 5 hours every day, well, 6 to 7 days a week. And I went to 4 different gyms. So I was bam, bam, bam. And when I was home, I was either on the treadmill, or during commercials, like when I was busy doing stuff, then the commercial would hit, I'd jump up and I would do these box steps as fast as I could while the commercial was going on. And then I'd finish doing what I was doing, and I kept back and forth. So and sometimes I would just run up and down the hall, up and down the hall. I mean, it was bad. I was very obsessed. And, people would say, oh, why don't you just relax? Why don't you chill or whatever? And I'm like, oh, I love doing this. It's no problem. But now that I look back, I realized that I did have that disorder. So for me, exercise is kind of one of those trigger things since then. And then I had the treadmill in my living room, and I was good with that. I could walk on that, or I could go outside and walk, and I did really great with that. And I did some kettlebell work, and that was good. Then my mom moved in with us, and it was just, the treadmill was too loud, and I'm not going to exercise in front of people like that. It's just, in front of the TV when they're trying to watch TV and stuff. So I ended up getting rid of the treadmill. I wore it out. I wore that thing out. I mean, sometimes I would do 10 miles a day. I mean, I wore it out. And so, exercise is kind of one of those things. So anyway, since I started keto, almost 3 years or over 3 years ago, I haven't really been exercising very much. So my goal, and my doctor told me, you really need to get some movement in. So that is going to be a huge focus for me, is trying to get my butt in gear. I need something, a catalyst to get me going, but not too obsessive, so I had to maintain that balance. So that is definitely going to be something. I like kettlebell work, so I'll probably try doing some of that and walking. Of course, I would love to be able to, have one of those crazy bikini bodies with the abs that are all, but, yeah, I'm not willing to do that much work to get that. So there you go. But I'm working on it. I'm going to try working on it.
Excellent. Yeah. And, I'm a certified personal trainer too. I've been doing that for about 8 years. Best thing I would say is just find things that you like to do, because every time that I've tried to work with people that don't like, some people don't like lifting heavy weights, even though that's
burpees.
What I cater toward a little bit more. Some people, especially now, I mean, even though it's up here in Pennsylvania, it's 95 degrees today. I mean, I see people working out outside, and, they like it. And, you can grab one of those TRX straps, throw it around a tree branch, and you can have fun with that too.
Yeah, I've kind of wanted to do that, the whole TRX thing. That kind of intrigues me. So does the aerial, kind of stuff. Leave it to me. I'd want, okay, even pole,
I've heard of that.
I don't want to say dancing because then it sounds bad, but in an exercise way, okay.
Yes.
Sure. But something like that I would enjoy. I was very big into cardio. I loved Zumba, because I love to dance. That's pretty much my exercise, is dancing. My husband and I, we usually go out dancing every single weekend, usually twice, country dancing. But we do the dancing where there's lots of spins and we are all over the floor and we do fast stuff. And so it is a little bit of a workout, but not enough, But, with this whole COVID thing and some of the bars having to close down, it's a little bit harder to go to a dance hall every weekend, but they're kind of starting to open back up a little. So, we'll see. But it's been a real bummer, because that was our thing. That was our, activity. That was our, connection. That was our fun. But yeah. So I'll get with it. I'm going to get with it. I will.
I know you will. And the thing about that, I think carnivore, low carb, and keto, that can carry on to other aspects of life too. Discipline, setting goals, and helping you with your mindset. And actually, speaking of your mind, it actually makes you think better.
Oh yeah. And your moods.
Yeah.
Your moods are so much better, and you are able to think a little clearer, and you're not so, about every little thing. You're kind of a little more chill.
Yeah.
And with this whole hormone thing, trying to balance my hormones. Oh my golly. I'll just tell this funny story, because it was like, whoa, where did that come from? Because for so long I've been kind of chilled, laid back. I don't really get mad, and I don't have these PMS kind of things happen. Well, once I started taking the supplements to kind of help my hormones react on their own without doing the hormone replacement and all that stuff I'm not doing. But it kind of mocked a PMS kind of happening, like what used to happen back in my 30s. And and with all the stress going on right now, and I'm just aggravated with everything. I just want it over with. And I would be just like, bah! For a day. And my husband was like, whoa, what the heck is going on with you? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then when I was talking with my doctor, he was like, so you really think you felt that way? And I said, well, I didn't think I was that bad, but my husband's over there going, oh, yes, you were. Yes, you were. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to go with what he says. So yeah, it's so nice when everything is in balance. And that's what keto and carnivore do, is that it kind of helps all the hormones balance. And so that's why you do have a better mood, and you're able to function better. I know definitely better than I would have on SAD diet, that's for sure. If I was going through now back when I was eating a crappy diet, oh, I feel sorry for anybody who had to live around me. It would not have been good.
Well, Amber, I really appreciate all the awesome information that you have helped talk about tonight. I think a lot of my listeners and your listeners will, learn from this podcast and all the information you shared. Um, if someone wanted to get in touch with you on social media, how would they get in touch with you?
Oh goodness, just plug in my name and a bunch of stuff will pop up. I spend most of my time probably on Instagram. Well, not probably, I do. And I'm under Lone Star Keto Girl. I'm also on Twitter, but it's Lone Star Keto and it's underscore between the words. Twitter only lets you have a certain amount, and they wouldn't let me do Lone Star Keto Girl, so I had to do something goofy. And I also have a website lone-star-keto.com, and I have all my social media on that. I have a YouTube channel, Lone Star Keto, and tomorrow will be it comes out I don't know when this will air, but the interview with Ken Berry, and it was really good. I mean, he had a lot of great information to share, and I'll be uploading that on the 16th, which is tomorrow for me now. And so, yeah, check that out. It's really good. I mean, Ken did a fabulous job of answering questions and getting that, how he is. He's awesome. So.
Yeah, I really love the stuff that he shares because he breaks it down so easy, and
Yes.
it kind of feels like you're, having like your own, family physician appointment, when you're in.
Yes.
So
And he's like that in
yeah,
person. He really is.
yeah,
He is the coolest person ever. And I like how he's a straight shooter. And that's why I also like Sean Baker, Dr. Sean Baker, because he's a straight shooter too. And he's very approachable. He's a very nice guy. He's not dogmatic, regardless of what somebody may say. He is not dogmatic. And that's why I love him. And there's a lot of really good people out there who are just willing to help people, and they're straight shooters. They very personable. So if you have whoever out there, if you have a chance, go to KetoCon when they're allowed to have it again. This year it was canceled, and I was super bummed about that. But it's a fabulous way to meet a lot of people in the community, and the people who present are so approachable. These are really, really good people, and they honestly want to help, and they will take pictures with you. They will answer your questions. They're amazing. You had asked the question, I can't remember which about who would I want to share information
yes,
with,
yeah,
and I'm guessing you mean that who do I consider to be good influencers in
yeah,
the community? Who would I? Okay, well, obviously, Dr. Ken Berry is one of them, and Dr. Sean Baker. I have the opportunity to do a lot of stuff with MeatRx, not just the coaching, but I do interviews for the success stories, and
good.
I do the graphics, and I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So I've had a chance, and I get to see his meetings, pretty often. So, I know what a great person he is and what his mission is. And so I highly recommend anybody following him. He's a straight shooter. Now, he will tell you what it's like. I mean, he's pretty rough compared to Dr. Kim Berry, but he's a great guy. And the other I would say would be Craig and Maria Emmerich. I
Okay.
think they're pretty awesome people. I've got to meet them in person and talk with them, and I've got to interview both of them through MeatRx. So it was super cool to get to know them, and they're fabulous people. They have that carnivore cookbook out, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, those are definitely some of my top three. I have many more, but
I know.
off the top of my head, I had to pick those.
Excellent stuff. Well, I won't keep you on here too much longer, but just wanted to say thank you again. And I'll probably be posting this probably next week to YouTube and then also Instagram TV. Um, And then, guys, if you have any questions for Amber, once again, I will include those at the bottom in the description on Instagram TV and YouTube, so you can check out Amber there. And we'll be back in just a few seconds with a few extra words.
Thanks for having me.
A big thank you once again to Amber for taking her time out of her day to talk about a really cool story about how, she never gave up. And she finally came to keto and carnivore and found something that really worked for her. And I hope that you guys can take something out of this tonight and really apply it to your own lives as well. And one of the things I wanted to mention about these podcasts is I'm pretty surprised that, I started this thing back in March, and a lot of the people that I didn't know that I've had the chance to meet, strangers, who share the same passion for low carb, ketogenic, carnivore approach, and, down to the science and how, these foods that we've been taught for so many years have been bad for us now are actually doing the opposite. They're helping us with our injury prevention, cognitive function, and athletic performance. So if anybody comes across the podcast or my channel at Keystone_Carnivore, I'd love to hear your story and hear the successes that you have. And, maybe your story only reaches one person, but hey, you help that one person, get their health and their nutrition and their exercise protocol back on track. Once again, if you did receive a t-shirt or hat this year with Keystone Carnivore, go ahead and share that with your best shot of the week, maybe with its cooking up a steak or burger by the grill, or maybe you're in the gym, or maybe you're out for a run. I know it's going to be about 100 degrees this week up here in Pennsylvania. So if you can, maybe get outside just for a few minutes and get a nice shot of that. But until then, keep enjoying these podcasts, and we'll see you soon.